Hello, everybody. Welcome to Creation Myths. So I am just going to give this 1 minute just to click over so I know that the audio and everything is looking good. And then once we do that, I'll get going. Okay, sounds good on the YouTube end. If anybody has any technical problems at any point, if you, for example, can't hear me, if you can't see me, if you can't see the thing that I am sharing, which should be right there. Right now, it's a PowerPoint. If anything craps out at any point, just let me know. I'm also going to be playing clips of a video. And if you can't hear that video, let me know and I'll try to fix it. And if I can't, then worst case scenario, I've got a transcript that's plan B and we'll make it work. So here we go. Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, so hi, everybody. Welcome. For those of you that don't know, my name is Dan. Creation Myths is my channel. I am, for tonight, I am, what am I? I'm Dan, the damage control man, because apparently what I do is damage control when I get pwned by standing for truth. So let me give everybody the background of what we're doing here. So let's see. This is the first in what may or may not become a series of responding to critics videos. And today we are going to talk about Standing for Truth's stream from last night. That was a rebuttal to my video from Monday on created heterozygosity. So this is the one from Monday. Creation Myth created heterozygosity. And what we're doing here is I looked at this claim of, well, we could explain human genetic diversity with front-loaded diversity in the form of heterozygosity in Adam and Eve. And I kind of went through this argument and actually did like some math. And like it was pretty specific. It was more technical than I usually do. And it was definitely more boring than I usually do because it was looking at Dr. Nathaniel Jeanson's model of created heterozygosity and why it's insufficient. Now, Standing for Truth responded with a rebuttal last night, and what's been going on is people left comments saying, you should respond to this, you should respond to this, and I am not generally inclined to do that because it doesn't seem valuable to have, a back and forth on YouTube. This is something from like the old internet days when you'd have like blog fights on the comments of like Panda's Thumb and Uncommon Descent, but it seems a lot less productive now. That being said, several people made compelling arguments. Basically, what people said is, like it or not, Standing for Truth is influential, so you should respond to him. And I think that's a fair point. As sad as it is, outside of the professional creationist organizations, your AIGs, your CMIs, SFT is one of the more popular young Earth creationist YouTubers, and gets people for debates and interviews and things, and he's got an audience. So if my goal is to educate as to why creationism is wrong, and specifically why young Earth creationism is not just wrong, but horrifically, catastrophically wrong and not even scientific, then I should respond to this video. And that's a fair point. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to right now go through a bit of Standing's stream, only a bit of it. You'll see why in a minute. And we'll see why he continues to be completely wrong. So before I kind of get into this, I do want to note that what we're going to see here is kind of par for the course. This is kind of the normal caliber of Standing's work. There's a lot of confident assertions. There's a lot of bluster, a lot of posturing, but there is no substance. It is basically completely vacuous. And it's a bit of a round robin of like, try to figure out where the claims are coming from and where there's actual evidence versus just, oh no, there's evidence for that, we've refuted that, blah, 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 blah. So that's what we're going to do right here. We're going to go through his thing. So Standing's response was 1 hour and 44 minutes long. Now, for the record, my original video was 21 minutes long. The reason the response was so long is that it was mostly completely off topic. There were only a few actual relevant segments. And if you look, those are the relevant segments. If you want to go, and I'll link the videos down in the description. I threw this together kind of fast, so the description has nothing in it right now, but I'll link the stuff. And if you want to see the parts that are relevant to the video that I posted on Monday, there's where you can find them in Standing's video. It works out to actually about 20 or 21 minutes. It works out to almost exactly the same length as my video, which is, I think, pretty funny. So we're going to go through those parts and a couple of little things I want to point out that are later on in the video. I'll just kind of point out some other stuff that I think is worth pointing out. And so I'm going to pull up the video. I'm going to share the screen. I'm going to show it at 1.5 speed because, like, we all got stuff to do. Some of us want to go to bed. We're not going to, so we'll go through it at 1.5 speed. If that's too fast, I apologize. You could slow me down when you watch this, afterwards if you want. And we'll pause and we'll talk about it kind of periodically and we'll see where the problems are. And oh my, there are a lot. Now, before we do that, just a quick note on sources. So in my video on Monday, I leaned heavily on Nathaniel Jeanson's work on created heterozygosity. So I referenced two specific sources where he's an author. This paper on the origin of eukaryotic species. I wonder if you can see my mouse. On the origin of eukaryotic species, genotypic and phenotypic diversity, blah, blah, blah. And then also his book, Replacing Darwin. And I quoted extensively from both of those things in my video to make sure that we're being crystal clear about the parameters of the argument. Now, Standing, in his response, doesn't mention either of these sources. In fact, Jeanson comes up in his whole stream. I think it was one time Jeanson's name came up, and it was in a completely unrelated context. It was something else. So I think it was related to some blog post from a few years ago that Jeanson that is responded to. Wasn't anything on this. So I made an argument saying, Jeanson is wrong for X, Y, and Z reasons. And if you go back and watch my video, there was math. Like, I got numbers, I did calculations, there was actual hard math in there. And then you look at Standing's response, and it's something else entirely. We're not even going to touch on what I said about Jeanson's work. It's literally not part of the response, which is weird considering that was the point. So that's just be aware of that. So let's see here. So let's go through. As we go through Standing's video, I want you to be asking yourself a couple of things. You, the audience, if you're watching Standing's video, at any point, ask yourself, what specific argument is Standing responding to? And what specific evidence is he providing that that argument is wrong? Because this is, hang on, I'm seeing in the chat, is this going? Is it working? Tell me if it's working or not. Okay, it looks like it's working. Tell me if it's not working. But it seems like it's working. It is working. Okay, good. Just want to make sure. Okay, good. Okay, so what we're going to do is, as we go through, we'll pause a couple times, and I want to make sure. This is what I want you to ask yourselves. What argument of mine is he responding to? And what evidence is he providing that that argument is wrong? At any point, we should be able to say, what are we talking about here? So let's see if we can actually do that. Now, rule of thumb, in an effective presentation at any point, you should be able to answer those questions. So let's see if we can. Okay, now I'm going to start playing this from 11 minutes in because that's the first relevant part of this thing. Now, as I play this, if you cannot hear the audio from that video, let me know and I'll deal with it. Oh, the audio's not coming. Okay. Poo. Hang on. Let's see if I can fix that real fast because I have never tried to do it. Thank you. I have never tried to do that before. Let's see. Okay. Thank you all. Thank you. Let's see. How can I do this? I think I tried to share the audio. Here we go. Audio. Well, we might have to just go with the transcript, and that is okay. I am like this close to getting okay boomered by everybody. Sorry. So what we're gonna have to do instead, I think. Oh, that's a yeah, that's nice. So what we're gonna have to do instead, I think, is I'll just go through the transcript, and that's okay. I planned for that. See, this is called having a backup plan, everybody. So what we're gonna do is instead of doing the audio, which is a shame because I want you to hear the audio, what I want you to do is go to the timestamps, on your own time if you want. Because like it's one thing to see it written out, but it's quite another to actually hear how there's just no substance here. So I'm actually going to try one more thing here. So hang on one second, okay? Yep. Oh, I'm just destroyed. I should just retire now. My career is over. Okay, we're going to stop the stream or stop the screen share. Share screen. We are going to share screen. We are going to do that. Let's see if this works. Nope, that's wrong. That is the wrong thing. No, that is the right thing. Okay. Tell me if this works, everybody. Yeah, I thought I hit share. I thought I hit share audio, but very quiet, but it's there. Okay, so it is there. Well, that's better than it was. Let's see if I can. Yeah, hang on. Yeah, Gutsick, I don't know why you're also in this thing. It was a response to me. I don't know why you're mentioned in there. I have no idea. That's part of the problem here. All right, sorry everybody. David, I'm gonna get you in here because you seem confident you know what you're doing. So just give me 1 second, okay? Da 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 da. Hang on 1 second, everybody. Thank you all for sticking with me here. I'll edit this stuff out in post, Okay, let's see here. We need to go to. This will just take a second. I apologize, and I appreciate everyone sticking with me. Once we get going, I swear this is going to be fun because, oh man, this is not good. This is not good at all. All right, let's see. David, you're going to have a link in just a second as soon as Gmail loads up here. Of course, everything's moving slow because, there's a stream going on. Okay. Okay, David, you have an email. So you come on in here and we can get this sorted out, and I appreciate your help. All right. In the meantime, so eventually, well, let me reset this to the right timestamp here, everybody, and then we'll get this going. Sorry, everybody. Live TV, what you're gonna do? Pause that. Okay. Oh, David's here. Great. Sorry. There we go. Okay. Now,
Hey, Dr. Dan, how you doing?
oh, hang on. There you go, David. I got you. Okay. Oh, and yes, that cartoon is drooling. No, unmute. Don't be muted. Why are you muted? There you go. You're
Okay.
good.
Can you hear me all right?
Yep, I got you. What am I doing?
Unshare your screen.
Okay, we're gonna stop the screen.
Okay, now I'm going to share my screen.
Okay.
Like that. And I'm going to hit share audio.
Get a share. Oh, I see. There's a share audio option. So hang on. I want to see mine.
Yeah.
Share. Okay. Follow these steps to share your audio. I see that. I did those steps, but it doesn't want to do it. Oh, Chrome tab. There we. I see. I got to do it. I got it. I see how to do it now. I'm bad at this. Sorry, everybody. Okay. Sorry about that. Everybody, this is gonna take like 30 seconds, but I can fix this. So just hang on, everybody. Okay, just everyone chill for a second, and I got this. Okay, here we go. It's be a little disjointed, but that's okay. We're gonna make it work. Thank you, David. I'm going to want to just hang out and make sure I have this right, and then I'll once I'm sure I have it, then we can get going. Hey, we're behind schedule. That's okay.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, so now I have a Chrome tab open that has the right thing. Let's see if I can do that. You know, once the video loads and everything. Okay, it has the right thing. Let's see if I can do that. That needs to stop. That can go away. This can go away. Okay, now what I want to do is share my screen. I want to share screen. I want to go to Chrome tab, that one, share audio, share. Okay, so I think we got this. Let me just make this, theater mode. Here we go. Okay. Now we should be fine. Okay, so now I'm going to say play.
Now, what I'll do here.
Let me know if you can hear it.
I'll start off by sharing screen on a paper that I'm not too sure the evolutionists are. As long as you can see the screen. Okay, let's
here we go. Okay,
so
now
this
we're doing
is
this, everybody.
a paper that you have to download.
I appreciate it.
I've got it in front of me. Throat's a little dry. Just finished a workout and rushed into here.
Okay.
So excuse me if I'm taking some drinks.
I gotta set
also
this to
fighting a
1.5
cold,
speed.
so
That's
voice might be a little scratchy. Forgive me. So this is a paper you'll want to download. I've actually got it in front of me. I've looked it over a few times, studied it. Intensely. Adam and Eve, design diversity and allele frequencies. So one of the major arguments from our critics here, Dr. Dan, for example, Dr. Joshua Swan.
Okay, this is
Amidas, he's notorious for it as well. What's funny though, when this paper came out, this was a newer paper written by Dr. Stanford, Dr. Carter, Dr. Baumgartner, so some solid authors on this paper, some really, really good numerical simulations, and that's what they're always asking for, right?
This paper has really, really good numbers, and it's got numerical simulations. And that's what we're asking for, right? That's true. I asked for numbers, so here we are.
The numbers. Well, here, and I can assure you, here in the abstract, it says it's a very technical paper.
In the abstract, it says it's a technical paper. Therefore, it's going to be technical, everybody. There's one thing I do want to point out here. And I do have to change my screen, don't I? Because I want to go back to that PowerPoint. So we're going to have to change this up. We're going to go back to that PowerPoint. I do want to point this out right here. Is that this paper is not relevant to what I covered. So this is the paper, by the way. He didn't show the paper on there. He just said, here's the paper, but didn't actually show the title or whatever. He said the authors. Here's the paper, Adam and Eve, Design Diversity and Allele Frequencies. And this is weird because this paper makes a different argument from the one Jeanson makes. Specifically, here's a part of this paper. This is towards the end where they're saying there's part 1, part 2, part 3, like of their mechanisms. And here's one of the things they say. They say Adam and Eve's created gametogonia contain design diversity. In other words, you have heterozygosity in their normal genome, but then in their germline cells, in the spermatogonia and the oogonia in Adam and Eve, you had additional diversity in there. There could have been vast number of created gametogonia within Adam and Eve. Each could have been genetically unique. Every gamete in Eden could have been designed with its own unique set of alleles and its own linkage patterns. That original population of reproductive cells could have represented a gene pool comparable to a large human population. Now, it's really interesting that they're going to lean, that Sanford et al. Are going to lean on this argument. Jeanson doesn't employ this mechanism. Nowhere in the paper that I referenced in my video, nor in his book, does Jeanson lean on additional created diversity in the germline cells in Adam and Eve or any created kinds. Okay? He doesn't do that. That's a different argument. So right off the bat, I'm over here saying, Jeanson claims that the square root of 2 is purple, and I say, no, that's wrong for all these reasons. And Standing comes in and says, no, the square root of 5 is Swiss cheese. It's a different, unrelated argument. Now, I don't know if Standing doesn't realize this, or he does, and he agrees that Jeanson's mechanism doesn't work. I feel like he thinks I'm wrong about Jeanson's mechanism because he made a whole long hour and 44-minute stream implying that I'm wrong, but he's very unclear about the reasons why. And here, this reason doesn't make any sense because Jeanson doesn't use this mechanism. So that's a problem. So let's go back to now again, I got to switch back over to Chrome now. Oh, this is so cumbersome. All right, so now we're going to go back over to the Chrome tab, and we're going to do this, and we're going to go back to it. Okay, so we're going to share that. Okay, here we go. Let's listen.
I just want people to know that it's out there. Look into it. I haven't seen any criticisms or rebuttals from the critics on it. One funny thing about it, unless Dr. Swamidas has changed his mind, on his website, Peaceful Discourse, when this paper first came out, he admitted that this seems to give a plausible explanation for the allele frequencies in people groups today in regards to all coming from Adam and Eve. And he said,
yes, Swamidas did say that. The point of his argument that we're going to get into in a minute was the timing of that. You can make any population at any level of diversity work as a common ancestor for any subsequent population. The question is the amount of time in between, which was the point of the argument that Standing is pretending to address.
That, okay, they've got an explanation for this, but they have a problem known as the TMR4A problem. It's a sophisticated population genetics argument. So
it's a sophisticated population genetics argument. Time to most recent 4 alleles. So the first thing that I wonder here is, can Standing explain that argument? Because as we're going to see subsequently, he serially misrepresents this argument, what this time to most recent 4 alleles argument is. And I describe it a bit in my video, but the idea is we're not talking about a single common ancestor. We're talking about 4 distinct created variants. Can you calculate the time from existing diversity back to those 4 variants? That's time to most recent 4 alleles. Okay, so that's the TMR4A population genetics argument. Okay, that's the one that we're addressing here. So as Standing goes through and talks about this, think about those questions that I put up at the beginning.
I'm going to deal with that one after. So even admitting that the numerical simulations done here in this technical paper does seem to give validity to all human beings today, stemming from 2 people, Adam and Eve. So it says, in this paper, we have critically examined these arguments. Our analyses
again, it's the timing that matters. You can squeeze any population size into any whatever you want. It's the time that matters. And what Standing's not saying is the timing for TMR4A is 500,000 years, not 6,000.
Highlight several genetic mechanisms that can help reconcile a literal Adam and Eve with human allele frequency distribution seen today. We used numerical simulation to show that 2 people, if they contain designed alleles, can in fact give rise to allele frequency distributions of the very same type as are now seen in modern man.
Years ago.
I challenge our critics. Gutsy Gibbon, if she'd like to, pull up this paper. Like I said, it is a lengthy paper. Go through it, refute it. In the conclusion, you won't be able to see it here, but I've got it in front of me, so I urge you to download it. I typically download these and print them.
Yeah, I am familiar with that paper. I chose not to address that paper in my video because the most well-known person, the person who promotes the created heterozygosity argument the most, is Nathaniel Jeanson. So that's the person I chose to refute. You could do the same math for the Sanford and whoever else is on this paper version. I chose not to do that, and using this paper to refute my math against Jeanson doesn't make any sense. It's literally irrelevant to the question. It's at least on the right topic, unlike most of the stream, but it's not relevant to the question.
Them, so I can study them, highlight it, for example. So let's see here. So in the conclusion, they say, in this paper, we have used logic and numerical simulation to show.
I want you to listen to this part carefully. The end of this big chunk is important, and I'm going to repeat it because it's important. So we're going to just listen right here.
That there are several design diversity mechanisms that can reconcile a literal Adam and Eve with the allele frequency distribution now seen in the human population. These genetic mechanisms include design diversity within Adam and Eve's 4 sets of chromosomes, followed by accelerated genetic drift associated with multiple population constrictions. As above, combined with more powerful demographic forces such as selective sweeps, lineage extinctions, and differential subpopulation expansion.
Okay, let's break that down real fast, because we're saying you can create a lot of diversity, but you need other processes to get to the pattern we have. In other words, creating the diversity isn't enough, you need other stuff. And they name some of the other stuff in here. Things like accelerated genetic drift. They say, so followed by accelerated genetic drift associated with multiple population constrictions, as above, combined with more powerful demographic forces such as selective sweeps, lineage extinctions, and they go on to some other stuff. Those are the important things. Because genetic drift, what effect does that have on genetic diversity? It decreases it. Selective sweeps, that's when one genotype takes over the population. That decreases diversity. Extinction, that decreases diversity. So the problem that creationists have here is that we can't generate enough diversity fast enough, but you also can't deny like the basics of human history. Even in the creation model, you have to deal with small isolated populations from time to time, which means you're going to deal with genetic drift. So they're incorporating those diversity reducing mechanisms into their model here. But that causes a problem because that works opposite the diversity generating mechanisms. So you're doing opposite things here. You're claiming to be able to generate more diversity, but you're invoking mechanisms that reduce it. I don't know if Standing realizes that contradiction or not, but it's not from him. It's from Sanford et al. And we know, if you go back to my videos about like Sanford, that guy is not on the up and up. He is not on the level. Okay, so like I wouldn't put it past him to just be like, nope, they're doing their thing. So just be aware of that. Back to it.
And thirdly, design with an Adam and Eve's original created genomes. So you can go through this detail, very technical. Like I said, unless he's changed his mind, Dr. Swami Das, a militant Earth creationist. So you can look into it. Like I said, he might have changed his mind. I don't want to put words in his mouth. But the last time I looked, he seemed happy with it. It's a newer paper. And he brought up another argument, the TMR4A. And I, the other day, refuted that one. It's a sophisticated population.
He refuted TMR4A the other day. Let's see how he does that. We're going to get into it in a bit. Let's see if he actually did that.
He's going to be kind of technical, but
spoiler, he didn't. And when he says the explanation is kind of technical, it's not.
It's mainly because Dr. Dan, Damage Control Dan, he put out a video that was kind of technical as well.
Dan.
So
I like that.
I'll kind of give the basic rundowns on how to refute these arguments.
Okay, good. We're going to get the basic
rundowns. I'm showing you some
rundowns.
key sections in it. But, if you want to go down deep, stay down long, come up, try, download the paper, read it.
So far, we're good. That's good because we're going to get the rundowns on how to refute these arguments. Because so far, he's been off topic for the first 11 minutes and then on topic for 5 minutes. And so far, we haven't gotten anything. So I'm excited to hear these rundowns.
For yourself. They're always accusing the creation of not doing the math, not doing the numerical simulations. It's been done. Okay, ad nauseum. And the presentation I'm going to give after that, having to do with what's called the HapMap data, you're going to see that for yourself. So just wanted to start off with this one. But I wanted to start off with the HapMap data. But you know what? Since I'm already...
HapMap data, that's a lot of this video that I'm not talking about because it's irrelevant to the topic. It's not relevant. It doesn't matter. He spends a lot of time on that later in the video. I am not going to mention it. And yes, I am pausing when I say important things. Mostly, yes. Thank you.
Already on this issue with the TMR4A, okay? Dan in his video, I linked it. He is really relying on this. And he got it from Joshua Swami Das. Mm-hmm. And I pointed out in a stream the other day that it's based on a circular argument, okay? It is.
Really? What circular argument is that?
Assumes away created heterozygosity. Now, in his video, he says, to the contrary.
It assumes away created heterozygosity. think about this, everybody. Time to most recent 4 alleles assumes away created heterozygosity. The definition of created heterozygosity is in 2 people, you have 4 distinct alleles for each locus. That's what it means. So if you're calculating the time to 4 distinct alleles in the past, you are assuming created heterozygosity. You are not assuming it away. So Standing's anti-time to most recent 4 alleles argument is just lying about what that argument is. That's his counter argument, just lying about it.
It assumes created heterozygosity. Well, what I want to point out is that it's kind of, here's the problem. So Dan got from somebody who has put forth an erroneous argument. So now Dan is now putting forth, it's like a ripple effect, erroneous argument after erroneous argument being parroted. It's kind of like Guts at Gibbon, where
oh, now we're off topic. Now we're complaining about Guts at Gibbon because that's, you know, a favorite pastime over with Standing and the other rest of the brain trust. In that part, I want to read that part. I want to read that part of the transcript real fast because I want to be clear about the fact that we just skipped right over time to most recent 4 ancestors is wrong. Why is it wrong? Well, we're going to lie about it, and then we're just going to say we're going to move on. He says, I want to point out is that here's the problem. So Dan got it from someone who has put forth an erroneous argument. The error is not an error because Standing is lying about what the error is. So now Dan is putting it's like a ripple effect, erroneous argument after erroneous argument being parroted. That's from the transcript of the video I got off YouTube. So he is either does not understand the time to most recent 4 ancestor argument, or is lying about that argument. And I don't know what to say. He just skipped over it, said, yeah, we refuted that, and then moves on to complaining about Guts at Gibbon without actually pausing for a second to like address the argument. Which, by the way, I should say, this is completely par for the course.
Recently got caught copying Swami Das and Evo Grant, for example. I asked her several questions on Y chromosome papers.
Sorry. So, by the way, this is where now we're off topic again. Now I'm going to skip ahead a little bit because we're now not on like talking about my video. So we're going to jump ahead to 19 minutes and we'll get back on topic for a few minutes here. So we're just going to jump ahead to right. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. We'll jump ahead to right there, and now we'll get back on topic. Okay. Now, again, as we go, ask yourself, which of Dan's arguments is he addressing, and what evidence is he providing to do that?
See, Erica addressed this one as well, the questions that I had for the Y chromosome. Okay, so let's go back to, like I said, this paper, have a look at it. Okay, so this whole TMR4A argument, like I said, a lot of this is technical, but let's deal with this right away because we're gonna slam this one. We're gonna put this one to bed for good. And what's funny is, from what I'm hearing,
we're gonna put this one to bed for good. I would wonder, and I should say, I invited Standing to be here because, unlike some people, some people like Standing, if I'm going to do a stream directly responding to what somebody said, I'm going to invite them to be present. And I did invite him to be here. And if he was here, I would ask him, can you explain the technical details of the time to most recent 4 ancestors argument? I suspect the answer is no, because he just kind of skirts over it again and again here, and claims that it's been refuted without actually doing that. But we'll see. So here we go.
There's been no rebuttal to this paper. But supposedly, as good as this paper is, we can't explain this TMR4A problem. So, but here's the problem with that, okay? This TMR4A argument, it's a circular argument as it pretends, okay? It pretends, and I want to emphasize that, to assume created heterozygosity, when in fact, TMR4A has heterozygosity as part of the analysis, but it is nothing like the model of created heterozygosity.
Okay, hold that thought. A couple minutes ago, time to most recent 4 ancestors doesn't involve created heterozygosity. Now, skip forward a few minutes. Time to most recent 4 ancestors assumes created heterozygosity, but it is nothing like the model of created heterozygosity. So the question I have is specifically, how are the time to most recent 4 ancestor assumptions different from those of Sanford et al., who wrote this paper that's still on screen here? And more importantly, for refuting me, because I didn't talk about the Sanford paper, if you're going to refute me, I would like to know how the assumptions of time to most recent 4 ancestors are different from Jeanson's created heterozygosity assumptions. Do you think we're going to get answers to any of these questions in this stream? No, we are not. That's how it goes.
time to most recent 4 ancestors, okay, or 4 alleles, is what this means. And I suspect that there's not too many critics looking into it other than Swamidas, and therefore they themselves haven't looked into it too thoroughly. Well, what it does is it traces the origin of our autosomal DNA differences back in time, okay? Incorporating recombination and mutation. It allows the researcher to follow lineages. RM4 point is 4 lineages are present in the human population. This is essentially, okay, if you're following me, this is essentially the point where 2 lineages could be present in Adam in a heterozygous state, okay? In all, for anybody new here, created heterozygosity just means that according to our model, God would have front-loaded Adam and Eve with pre-existing functional DNA differences, pre-existing genetic diversity. It'd make no sense for God to create Adam.
Just letting this go because there's nothing objectionable in here as an explanation of time to most recent 4 ancestors. That was pretty good. Putting aside, like, you're not putting any numbers on it. Yeah, that's good. You take your existing diversity and you go backwards until you have 4 distinct things. What's that time frame? That's your time to most recent 4 alleles. So that was pretty good. Credit where it's due. Excellent.
Adam and Eve genetically homogeneous, because when he said to be fruitful and multiply, would you want that to be carried out through cloning? Of course not. That wouldn't make any sense. So back to the point here. You would, as I said, these 2 lineages could be present in Adam and 2 in Eve, okay, both in a heterozygous state. But the entire analysis still treats every difference as the result of mutation. Okay, let me say that again. But the entire analysis still treats.
No, it doesn't. The entire analysis does not treat every difference as a result of mutation. If you start with 4 distinct alleles for each locus, then by definition, the differences are pre-existing. They're not the result of subsequent mutations. Once again, I cannot tell if Standing for Truth does not understand basic genetics, or if he's just a dishonest hack and just constantly lies about all of this stuff. I legitimately cannot tell. I would love some insight into this. Standing, if you are watching, I would love an explanation, because what you just said makes no sense at all. Please clarify for all of us, because my goodness, this is just, what are we doing here?
Every difference is the result of mutation. Because the problem, this is why it pretends to assume created heterozygosity. We assume the vast majority of DNA differences, nuclear DNA differences, are the result of initial created heterozygosity. And this is why your critics, they want to ignore your uniparentally inherited DNA, your non-recombining DNA, like the Y chromosome, the mitochondrial DNA, where there's just so few mutations.
There we go. Now we're changing the topics, right? Now we're going away from heterozygosity, and we're going to end up going down this mitochondrial and Y chromosome rabbit hole. So now we've just galloped away from the thing that was the topic. We were already not in the right ballpark, because remember, this started as a response to my video. How much of that video has he responded to? Nothing so far. But now we're in a completely different realm, talking about non-recombining parts of the genome, although the Y chromosome recombines a little bit. But yeah, that's that's where we're at, everybody. Let's keep going. Okay.
And the mutation rates are fast. And they only take us back max 6 to 6,500 years. And those DNA compartments, we agree with the evolutionists, they are the result of mutation. That's why the non-recombining DNA, like the mitochondrial DNA, the Y chromosome, this would be the best place for us to test models in terms of origins, in terms of ancestry. But they want to...
yeah, you can use the rest of the genome to do coalescence analysis, and creations from top to bottom have a problem with that. I mean, Standing get that talking point from Jeanson. Jeanson, in the book Replacing Darwin, basically says, well, you could do it for the mitochondria, you could do it for the Y chromosome, and the rest of the genome, he doesn't say you can't do it, but he says it's harder and it doesn't work as well. And what that means is you don't get the answer you want, even when you fudge the numbers the way you do with the mitochondria and the Y chromosome. So let's just parse the creationist language there. What they're saying is, we don't like to do it because it's hard.
Obfuscate the issue, hide the issue, hide the fact that they're losing in the nuclear DNA, where things get a little bit messy. We inherit 2 copies, much, much larger, of course, and we assume the initial created heterozygous state. Now, here's the thing. As I pointed out, the entire analysis still treats every difference as a result of mutations. It just traces their mutational heritage in a more sophisticated way, as I was talking about earlier. This comes down to kind of complicated.
Not true. Again, not true. That's just a lie about that time to most recent 4 alleles.
population genetics. But in contrast, the created heterozygosity hypothesis treats, as I said, millions of DNA variants as the result of de novo origin, de novo creation. In a sense, in the terms used in this TRM4A analysis that Swamidas likes to talk about and says has been solved, the initial created heterozygosity, the model itself, puts millions of lineages in Adam and millions in Eve. So this is where it comes down to the strong man. This is why they pretend that it assumes created heterozygosity when in fact it doesn't. And all that to say that, yeah, it's a little bit technical.
Trying to pause.
And a little more detailed than is necessary.
There we go. Trying to pause. Ooh, whoa. I don't know what just happened there. Sorry, everybody. I have a question there because this is something that Standing does that he gets from Jensen. Again, it's not a thing that Standing came up with. It's from Jensen. But what he's doing here is he's obfuscating the meaning of allele. And so what allele just means when at a specific locus, the version, you could have different versions of a specific locus in your genome. And if you're heterozygous, you have one version, one variant from mom, and you have a different variant from dad. Typically, alleles are at the gene level. So you could have one allele for a particular gene from mom, a different allele from dad. Now, what Standing wants to do is look at alleles at the nucleotide level and say every difference constitutes a separate allele. And the question I have for any creationists to make this point is if I have a gene from mom and a gene from dad and they're different, they're two alleles of the same gene, but they're different alleles from each other. So I'm heterozygous for that gene. And I have, say the gene is 1,000 nucleotides long and 100 of them are different between the two alleles. How many different alleles do I have in there? How many different alleles are there? The answer is 2. Okay. Jensen wants to make this more than that. But in order to get more than 2 alleles for those things, you need recombination in there. And my whole video was about, or I shouldn't say whole, a bunch of it was about how the rate of recombination is too slow to break all those different variants up to get so many different alleles. So what we're doing here, similar to what they do with what creationists do with terms like fitness, is we're taking a biological term that has a meaning, and we're going to stretch that meaning a little bit to a point where it doesn't actually mean what it is typically taken to mean. That's what's going on there. So goodness, I don't know what just happened to this video here, but let's go up to, I think we're up to the 32-minute part here. We're going to jump to there, and we're going to jump back in. And there's only a few sections in here that I want to point out, but some of them are kind of funny. So, okay. So the first thing I want to go to is at 3646, because this is where you get an internal contradiction here. Okay, 3646. And the reason I want to do this is because we heard before, remember I read that passage and it showed, other mechanisms involve drift and selective sweeps and this and that. So here's, tell me if you can spot.
Now, eventually, after hundreds of years, okay, in the exponentially growing population, what happened?
Tell me if you can spot the problem.
Well, genetic drift stopped. Once the population got above a couple hundred people, we can see that the next generation get larger and larger, where Dr. Carty actually explains that they're grabbing all of the genetic variation.
Wait, genetic drift stops? You can look at the creationist math on population growth after bottlenecks like the ARC, and you get to the population sizes where they're now claiming drift stops in like a few generations. So how is that? And Carter was on that paper that cited drift as one of the major mechanisms here. So how is it that we have drift as a major mechanism that's explaining this whole thing in a weird way that I don't think is on the level, but used nonetheless? And then at the same time, by the way, the population gets too big and drift stops. So contradictory arguments. Hooray.
The previous generation had, and they added it to the next generation. Okay. How many people in the world today? Well, we've got about 7 billion, maybe a little more. What does this mean? Okay. Genetic drift isn't operating, or at whatever level it is operating, it's at a very, very slow, very low levels. Okay.
Okay. So we're coming up on one of the key passages here. This is the key one. And as we get into this, I'm going to let it go for about another minute here. We'll go straight through and then we'll pause and we'll kind of recap what was just said. But the thing I want to point out is this is kind of the wind up to the big conclusion of like, trust me, my model is better. At any point here, and I've played most of the stuff that he talked about with my stuff here, because we're now in that third 32 to 39 minute interval. What arguments has he made that counter anything that I said in my video, and what evidence has he provided for it? We've got a lot of hand waving. We've got a lot of, oh, Carter and Sanford and Baumgartner and whoever say this, but that's a different argument. And I showed you how that argument was different. That wasn't related to what I said at all. Completely different thing. What has he attempted to address that I said? And what evidence has he provided other than this one paper that is now relevant to the video he is supposedly responding to? So now let's get to this kind of wind up here. Let's just watch this.
Now, at this point, we're still not quite what we see today, but what's next in the biblical model? Anybody in the audience can guess? Of course, the flood. And what happened at the flood? 3 full sibling brothers and wives whom form a new population that is called inbreeding. And we know that inbreeding leads to what? Genetic drift, and that's what's important here. So eventually we see exactly what we see in genetics today, and more specifically in the HapMap data. Small population followed by rapid and exponential growth, the flood bottleneck, rapid genetic drift, and of course, rapid mutation fixation, faster substitution rates in this case. It's all been accounted for. It's all consistent. The numbers are there. The model is very, very consistent, even more consistent in the biblical model than the evolutionary model, which is funny because they're the ones saying that
it's all there. All the numbers are there. It's all consistent. Let me read that for you because that is, here you go. So that passage was, and what happened at the flood, 3 full sibling brothers and their wives who form a new population that is called what? Inbreeding. And we know that inbreeding leads to, that's genetic drift, and that's what's important here. So eventually, we see exactly what we see in genetics today. We're just going to like yada, yada, yada over the actual mechanism there. Small population followed by rapid and exponential growth, the flood bottleneck, rapid genetic drift, and of course, rapid mutation fixation, faster substitution rates in this case. It's all been accounted for. Now, in my video, the one that he is responding to, I've had numbers. I had math, right? I actually did the math and showed how many generations and whatnot it would take to get a specific number of variants for a specific human gene that exists. This is the closest we get to a response to that. And it's just, there was a flood, there was drift, there were bottlenecks, and yada, 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 and poof, it all makes sense. Surprise, everything checks out. It's all consistent. The numbers are there. The model is very consistent, even more consistent in the biblical model than the evolution model. Translation, the biblical model is better because. The end. That's the argument. That's the substance of the argument. This is 38 minutes into a video responding to my video where, again, there was math. It's 38 minutes in. That's as close to you get to try to address the points. But the thing that he just skips over is the math. That's the problem. There's no actual engagement with the issue here. Okay? So those 2 questions I asked at the beginning, how are we doing on those? Are we doing good? Probably not. So I want to just show a couple more really fun parts. Let me just, let's see, there's a couple quick things here. I want to go to 4745. I want to jump ahead, not because this is relevant, but because self-awareness is a challenge sometimes. So I just want to play this passage for you. So we're going to go 4740. I can scroll. Good enough. 4743. Good enough. Okay, so just listen to this passage and just.
Humans today have low genetic diversity. So not only did God create 2 humans, Adam and Eve, we'd expect low genetic diversity. You have the flood bottleneck. The animals go and migrate all parts of the world. But then you got that, where once again humans congregate.
Right.
I think there's probably about 1,000 people, a little bit more at that time, right, between 1,000 and 10,000. They're inbreeding. You got another bottleneck. More reductions in genetic diversity. And today we see that humans have low genetic diversity, incredibly low genetic diversity. This all didn't happen, but it is true. It turned out to be true, consistent with the biblical creation model. We haven't had to resort to fancy stories about hypothetical population bottlenecks where the evolution is.
We haven't had to resort to fancy stories about hypothetical population bottlenecks, says SFT, after saying how creation, the flood bottleneck, and Babel created bottlenecks that explain his model. Ladies and gentlemen, can we get this man some self-awareness, please? Can we do that, please? Can we pass the hat and get some self-awareness? Because my goodness, that is a, like, if I didn't know better, I'd say that was performance art, because that is amazing. That's probably my favorite passage from this whole video. There's one more thing I want to jump to. It's all the way 71 minutes in. Now we're beyond. He's talking about HapMap in here. He picks a fight with Gutsick Gibbon again for God knows why. I don't know. There's a whole bunch of stuff in here that is not relevant. He starts talking about this blog post that Jeanson made at one point, or Jeanson responded to at one point. It just, none of it makes any sense. But I just want to go up to about an hour and 11 here because there's one more moment because he's responding to an argument I made. In my video, I think I was pretty clear about what specific alleles I was using, right? When I was using the ABO blood group. So let's just
800 variants. This is what Dan is saying. Now, these are the exception to the rule, and you are probably referring to a subset of the immune system genes that are designed to change rapidly.
Probably referring to a subset of the immune system. How many times in that video? Go through and count how many times I said ABO blood group. Like, he's responding to a video. Did he watch it? Did he read the transcript? At no point did I mention the immune system. I only mentioned one gene as an example of a gene that has too much variation to be explained by created heterozygosity. I'm probably talking about some variant in the immune system. No, I named the gene half a dozen times in the video. What are we doing here? Trying to respond to a video, didn't even, like, did he watch? I have no idea. What am I supposed to do with this? I don't know. Okay, so that's all from the video, but the rest of it's, none of the rest of it's relevant. So what I'm going to do here is we're going to stop the screen. We're going to go back to PowerPoint because this story is not over. Okay, so let me just give me a second here, get my screen in order. Now, first thing we want to do here is, well, first thing I want to do is share my screen. First thing I want to do is share that. Okay, we're not done yet. We're almost done. I swear. I know this is too long already. I want to make this like a 2-hour stream like some people. So remember those two questions I gave you at the beginning. What specific arguments are we responding to, and what specific evidence is being provided? Does anybody have any answers to those two questions? Because I do not. I do not have answers to these questions. I don't know what specific arguments of mine from that video on Monday Standing is responding to here. And I don't know what evidence he is providing that the arguments I made were wrong. I don't know the answers to these questions. And I watched this whole thing. Now, maybe Standing or somebody else, maybe they think I'm cheating here because I jumped around in that video. I only showed a few parts. If you think that's the case, if you think I'm cheating here, if you think I'm being dishonest, tell me the timestamps where he actually addresses the arguments I made having to do with Jeanson's model and the ABO blood group. Point me to it. I didn't find them. I couldn't find them anywhere. You know why? Because they're not there. But if you think I'm cheating, point me to the timestamps, okay? Now, you may think this is over. I assure you, ladies and gentlemen, this story is not over. So after the stream, I posted, I didn't watch it because I have better things to do at night, in the middle of the night, like sleep. Today, I posted this comment on Standing's stream. Basically, these questions right here. I would love to know if anyone who watched the first, say, 50 minutes could explain my arguments and also why it's wrong, specifically. Like, what did I calculate? And how, specifically, does SFT show that those calculations are wrong? Can anybody answer those? And I was helpful and provided the hint. SFT does not describe my argument at any point. Right? Now, funny thing happened. That comment got deleted. That comment got deleted. And when I asked Standing if that comment got deleted, another thread, we were going back and forth, it was pointed out to me that I couldn't see that comment. So I asked Standing, did that comment where I asked people about the arguments, did that comment get deleted? And this was his response. Dan, the fact that you're still doubling down on the hypermutation/inbreeding being in any way contradictory in Neanderthals, even though I addressed it more than sufficiently and did a lot of research to do so, proves to me no answer to any of your questions will be sufficient. For anybody who is confused by that, that's a reference to the debate we had on Neanderthals. That debate was in July. So I don't know why it's relevant here. It's on a completely different topic, and also it was in July. So actually, no, that's a lie. It was in August. It was like August 3rd or 2nd or something. I think it was August 2nd. I lied. It wasn't in July. It was almost in July. Give me a break. Now they're going to come at me. Oh, Dan, what was it? Dan, the damage control man lies again. Sorry, it was in August. All right. So I followed up just to be sure. I said, so you did delete my comment. Well, you seem very confident in your arguments considering it was nothing but a couple of questions for your audience. So the questions were not on the topic, the Neanderthal thing. So I don't follow your logic. But as we've seen here and elsewhere, that is not a first. I find Stanning's logic very difficult to follow sometimes. Anyway, very intellectually honest of you. Well done. And his reply was, thanks. So not only did he not address anything in my thing, he did not like me asking people their opinion of how he addressed stuff in my thing. I will say, though, I did re-put that. I put that comment back, and to my knowledge, it's still there after he got called on it. So now, I also want to point out that there's one other cool thing going on here before I wrap this up. This was part of another discussion with talking with CRISPR, for those of you that know CRISPR-Cas9. But anyway, he was saying him and I were having an exchange the other day and decided to go into a private stream and discuss our differences for a couple of hours. It was a good talk. I'm always willing to do the same with Dan. And I said, given your penchant for misrepresenting the content of private discussion, see, for example, the discrepancy over the topic of our Neanderthal debate, because he claimed it was something it wasn't, or any conversations we have, me and SFT, they will be public, so the contents cannot be subsequently misrepresented. This was the response here. He said, sorry, that's small. He said, I wouldn't want to have a private conversation with me either. I understand me cross-examining you for a couple of hours would reveal way too many inconsistencies in your position. And I responded, and this is why I'm putting this up here. I responded, would you like to cross-examine me publicly for a couple of hours? Because I'd be happy to do that. Really go for it. If you think you'd get the better of me, why not? Offers on the table. So the other thing with the Neanderthal, the little parenthetical with Neanderthals is Standing wants to have, I guess, another debate about Neanderthals, but he wants me to, somewhere in there, he says, make my case purely from genetics, and then he'll take equal time to refute it. We already did that. That was the debate from the beginning of August on Neanderthals, and he was like still not happy about this. I don't know if he's unhappy with his performance in that debate, but I don't have anything to add to the Neanderthal videos I've made plus that debate. I made my case. It has not been addressed, and that's fine. And as I've told Standing, he is welcome to make all the Neanderthal videos he wants, refuting my arguments. And I'm not interested in having that discussion anymore because I'm satisfied with the discussion as it's gone thus far. He may not be. So oh well. But hey, hopefully maybe I'll get a cross-examination out of this. Okay, so let's let me just be clear about this. Any Standing, if you're watching, any topic you want, you can have me for, I don't know, an hour and a half, 2 hours. 2 hours is a lot. We both have kids, but we'll figure it out. We can figure it out. But it can be on your channel, Standing, because I want your audience to see it. If you think that conversation would be so bad, then you know what? Let's do it. I'm in. You can cross-examine me on whatever you want. Offers on the table. You let me know. So let's wrap this up. And I swear we are almost done, everybody. And I thank you for sticking with me through the technical difficulties. Now, SFT's response to my video was not a response to my video. It was a video. It was it used some of the words that I used, but it was not a response to the arguments that I made in my video. He pointedly ignored the actual arguments I made to the point of getting the gene wrong that I talked about. As we saw here, this video was devoid of content. There's tons of assertions, right? But it's just, oh, we've refuted that. This is all in line with biblical model, but the evidence for it is just not there, right? It's not there. I have numbers showing that it doesn't work, and his answer is, it works, right? I also am at this point comfortable saying that Standing for Truth is dishonest. He's blatantly misrepresenting how the TMR4A calculations work, just straight up lying about that after he's been corrected. And then, of course, there's the comments that are being removed, not just my comments, in particular this one here, but I know he's removed other people's comments stealthily from his various videos and community posts. So just a little last note here is, let me know if you want to cross-examine me publicly. Now, my final thought, that wraps up this, put a bow on it. That's this little episode in YouTube creation sphere drama. Okay. But I do just want to note here that this type of video is somewhat out of character for me. I don't generally do direct response videos like at a person. normally, and for those of you familiar with my channel, what I'm doing is I'm picking creationist ideas, things like genetic entropy or created heterozygosity or whatever, and showing why they're wrong. Sometimes I apologize with math. But in this case, I've said some pretty rough things about Standing for Truth and his work. Now, he is fond of saying no hard feelings to his opponents. Usually he says that after he gets called on some BS, like calling someone dishonest for no reason or deleting comments that he doesn't like. So I want to be perfectly clear with everybody watching and everyone who watches this down the road. This approach by Standing for Truth, this blustery, confident assertions with no evidence and a lot of hand waving, this is perfectly representative of how he approaches these conversations. This is not an outlier. Typically, the way this goes is someone raises an objection to something either creationists in general have said or Standing for Truth or his crew have said specifically. And if there's a response at all, a lot of times it's, this has already been addressed. And you could look at this video right here that we just went through. Oh, this has already been addressed. Sanford and company addressed this already. This has been refuted, right? Yada, yada, yada. Oh, well, where has this already been addressed? We addressed it in this stream from whatever, 2 weeks ago. And and they direct you to a stream, and it turns out the stream was at 2 in the morning and it was 3 hours long. Okay, am I really going to go through that? Well, I could find the part where they talk about the specific thing and you check, and there's nothing of substance. It's just pushing you to some blog post on, AIG or something. And yes, they are blog posts, not research papers. Answers Research Journal is a blog, not a journal. Don't get me started. You end up at Carter, Jeanson, Sanford. Standing isn't coming up with any of these arguments. And the thing that you end up with is probably not relevant to the original argument. See, for example, the paper that Standing cited here. So what Standing is doing is just laundering the arguments, sprinkling in, insults as he goes, and also a hefty dose of misunderstanding along the way, and either purposefully or not, misapplying the arguments in situations where they're not appropriate. So in the tradition of what Standing likes to say, Standing, no hard feelings. You are, as far as I can tell, and in my experience, a bad faith actor. You are, as far as I can tell, and in my experience, not intellectually honest, woefully uninformed, to the point where it is genuinely difficult to have a conversation because we have to keep stopping and explaining basic population genetics, like in the middle of the conversation. You're also very childish with this macho posturing and bluster and, like science gets decided in a middle school cafeteria and not with like arguments and facts. And at best, what we're seeing coming out of Standing is nothing more than an occasionally accurate conduit for blog posts from AIG and CMI and the like. It's not personal. This is just business between us. I've told you before that if you want that impression of you from me and lots of other people to change, if you want to be someone worth engaging with, you should act like it, because right now you're not. So I'm responding to your response because commenters made a good case that I should. But in general, I'm going to keep doing what I've been doing with my arguments, which is taking on the arguments made by Jeanson and Sanford and everybody directly, rather than the laundered versions through the YouTube creationist sphere, because those versions are just butchered versions of the actual arguments that are harder to understand. So now I hope Standing watches this, and maybe he'll respond to it. He can respond all he wants to this and other things. If it's worth my time, I may at some point respond to him. But if it's more content like the video we just went through, then probably not, because as we saw, there was nothing relevant for me to respond to in here. There was nothing there. So as always, I'll finish with what I always finish with. As always, if he or anyone else wants to come on my channel and dispute anything I say, open door. You can come on, take as much time as you want, and make your case as to why I am wrong. So far, nobody has taken me up on this offer. I am not surprised by that because, again, the playbook here is confidence and bluster, but not evidence. Oh well, maybe that'll change, maybe it won't. So that's all I have, everybody. That was Standing's response to my created heterozygosity video. I hope that was fun for you all. I'm sorry that took so long. I'm sorry for the technical difficulties. And I hope everybody has a lovely evening. Good night, everybody. Thank you for watching.